I walked in, and she was leaning against the desk, wearing this white gown. Her there, a doodle. Me standing in the doorway, annoyed. Annoyed, not annoyed. I am annoyed. I'm not annoyed, but I'm annoyed. The following podcast contains spoilers for a cool world. You have been warned.
Welcome back to another episode of KFR News Radio. This is your host, Glingerman Button, along with your host, Miguel Magusto.
You gotta stop being horny for cartoons, Glenn.
I'll never stop.
I know it's like your preference, but you gotta stop. It's too much chaos.
My word.
How
Had
you
to beat
doing?
it with a stick, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a Charlie Sheen scene from a scary movie.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, how you doing?
I'm not bad, man. I'm not bad. I'm just hanging out, really sitting on my life choices here after, today. But,
Yeah.
we'll get into that eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll
no,
get
yeah.
into it in a minute. But in the meantime, what movies have you watched this week?
At the last second, I kind of cranked out a bunch of movies.
Yeah, I saw.
So I was on Amazon just browsing the little domain that they have there, and I found a movie with Jack Nicholson. I was like, yeah, let me give it a gander. Little did I know it was actually the sequel to Chinatown.
Yeah. You didn't. I correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't know until I saw that you posted that, and I was like, "Have you seen Chinatown?"
Yeah, it was really funny. I'm sitting there, I'm watching this, and I was just in the mood for Jack Nicholson, and that was right there. I'm like, okay, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sitting there watching, like, wow, this movie feels a lot like Chinatown. And then you had messaged me, you're like, hey, have you seen Chinatown? I'm like, yeah, I have. This movie I'm watching right now is like blowing my mind because it's pretty much Chinatown.
It's because it is.
You're like,
it's the sequel.
it is Chinatown. I'm like,
It was the sequel way too late when sequels way too late weren't a normal thing. So
yeah, it was 16 years after Chinatown had released.
Yeah.
And
I think Jack Nicholson directed that. Is that right?
he did.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, it was decent. I had it on in the background, but like it wasn't as grabbing as Chinatown was. Or anything.
I hear it's a bad movie, but I also hear that it's only because it's trying to be a sequel to Chinatown.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's from somebody who didn't really realize until you told me.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely feels like Chinatown. It's got the feel. It's got the.
Well, that's
but
good.
But it takes place like in the 90s, and that's not what Chinatown should feel like. It should feel like I mean, it's a sequel, 16 years later, but still, it feels like it should still be in that like Chinatown when that came out, and like that realm there. But
Definitely.
16 years too late. But it is what it is. It wasn't bad, but I could see people not being happy about it. After that, I was like editing about a lot this week, so I kind of just put some stuff on in the background just to watch it. There's a movie called Black Death that had Sean Bean in it, and you can only realize what that's going to mean, especially when Sean Bean's in it. So yeah, it was about the.
That's a metal fucking name, though.
Yeah, Black Death. Yeah, man. It was okay. If you liked Game of Thrones, you might like this because there's at least 2 or 3 characters from Game of Thrones in this movie.
Hold up.
Actors, Glenn, not characters, silly goose. Basically, it's about, witchcraft and the Black Plague kind of coinciding together, and they're trying to, like, find people who are, like, suspicious of witchcraft, even though it's just, a plague going around.
Yeah.
But, comes to a point, Eddie Redmayne's in there, too. I thought, for sure, like, this was a just good movie to put on in the background because it just, at least for me, it did not catch my attention away from editing at all. Like, it was good background noise and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was fine. Sean Bean may or may not die. I'll let that hold you to your imagination. And then I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy VII Remake here lately, and I was like, you know what? Let me give the movies a gander. So I watched this one called Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. I'll tell you what, it's cool to skip that if you want to. Anyway, after that, I watched Wolfwalkers, which is a nice 2020 film that I'm going to watch for, obviously I did watch for the 2020 Stonies that we might be
The
doing.
Stonies.
Really
Stonies.
That's copyright. Calm down.
Sorry.
But oh my God. I'll want to talk about that more when we do the Stonies, but yeah, and then obviously I watched Cool World, and then I'm currently watching a movie, but I'll talk about that next week. So let's what did you silly little whittle?
So you know the show Community, right? Mm-hmm. 6 seasons in a movie. Mm-hmm. Well, I did 6 movies in a season.
Oh crap!
Yeah, not really. I did way more than 1 season because I've been watching fresh off the boat. The I think it's ABC family comedy. About Eddie Wong and his family. It's loosely based on Eddie Wong. It's not like verbatim his life.
Yeah.
But the first movie I watched Chaos Walking with Daisy Ridley and Little Spider Boy, whatever his name is.
Yeah, that's the one with Mads Mikkelsen too, right?
Yeah. What is Spider-Man's name? I forget. It's escaping me.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. That's what it is. Yeah. That's a fine movie. It is a hard PG-13.
Okay.
Because full disclosure, there is animal abuse in it.
Oh. Well,
and it's hard to watch. But other than that, it's a pretty soft movie. But like the scenes where there's animal distress is very hard to watch. Mm-hmm. And even if you're not like, the thing is like it's obviously CG and fake.
Yeah.
But it's just what's happening to it is so horrific.
Still there, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a solid movie. This apparently was on the shelf for like 2 or 3 years because the producers of it thought it was terrible. Mm-hmm. I don't see why they thought it was terrible. They could have easily made bank off of Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland's name.
Oh yeah.
They probably still will, but like there's a pandemic going on, so they would have made more money.
Yeah.
Before. Mads Mikkelsen's great in it. Demian Bashir is in it for a bit. He's really good in it. Yeah, it's a solid movie. It's not going to blow any minds, but it's a solid film. Then I rewatched Clue because it's such a good fucking movie.
It is a really good movie.
So yeah, I mean that's one of my favorite movies of all time. So yeah, there's not much to say. Other than if you haven't
seen it, chop, get a Clue.
Yeah, watch Clue. Watch it. Flames on the side of my face. Speaking of flames, then we watched. My wife and I watched a movie called Radioactive, which is about Marie Curie, who discovered radium and polonium. I'm not a chemist, so or physicist, whatever science.
But I know who is.
I'm not a smart person when it comes to science. Other stuff I feel I'm relatively smart, but not science.
Yeah.
But yeah, Caitlin is a scientist, but that's not why she wanted to watch it. She wanted to watch it because of Rosamund Pike. Rosamund Pike's a great actress. Mm-hmm. She plays Marie Curie in this. The film itself is mostly good, but also it's kind of sloppy in a way.
Okay.
So overall, it's like a straight, like I rated it 2.5, and that's mainly because it's sloppy. Like there's nothing that stands out like, oh, this is terrible, but it is very sloppy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fine movie. Then I watched The Father on the weekend at the Colonial Theater. Had I not watched The Father, I would have, for the first time in 7 years, had missed actually might be 8 years, 8 or 9 years now, had missed one of the Best Picture nominations before the nominations come out. For like the past 7 or 8 years, I have seen all of the nominations before they come out. And if I didn't see this on Saturday, I would have broken that streak. But I saw it.
It's a good thing you did not break the streak.
Yes. And it's about Anthony Hopkins, who is, they never say what he has, but it's either dementia or Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I assumed it was Alzheimer's.
From what I know about dementia, it reminds me more of dementia because he doesn't have a bad memory. He just gets things kind of cluttered. Mm-hmm. Which again, not a doctor. I just know that
not a chemist either.
Not a chemist. No, science off the table.
Yeah, get it away from me.
but my grandma had dementia and is kind of a similar thing. And whereas Alzheimer's, I feel like, is more just like you forget stuff. He knew stuff, but also, yeah, it's just kind of created the paranoia. I can't diagnose. I'm not a doctor, but from what I gathered, it felt more like dementia than Alzheimer's. And it's an incredible film. Just the way it's like shot and edited with like time jumps and everything. It's just puts you in his head so very well, and it's a very, very well made film.
He's also. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's darker than I was expecting it to be, but it's because it also touches on like the elder abuse and everything a little bit, and it's just incredible. It's a fantastic film and deserving of all its accolades that it's getting.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say that I believe, if I saw this correctly, that Anthony Hopkins is the oldest guy nominated for, I think, an Oscar. Not an Oscar.
He was nominated for an Oscar.
Oh yeah, then it might be that.
I know Christopher Plummer, rest in peace, is the oldest winner, and he was the oldest nominee for a while. Because I think Anthony Hopkins is older now than Christopher Plummer was at the time. I could be wrong. I haven't checked up on that, but yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, it's a great film. Highly suggest people check out The Father. Then I followed up that great movie with a Cool World. We'll get to that in a minute. Then I watched My Cousin Rachel for the sole reason of Rachel Weisz. My God, she's a beautiful woman. I love her.
She is a fantastic woman.
And she's a great actress.
Absolutely.
She's funny. She's charming.
She's the whole package. She's great.
Rachel Weisz. Hey, girl.
I respect you.
No, I respect you.
I respect you, girl.
I respect and honor you.
I did see that. I was kind of taking an interest in it, but I don't remember where is it at?
Yeah, I got it through the Netflix DVD system. I didn't stream it. I'm sure it's on a streaming service though.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a solid movie. Rachel Weisz is like the best part of it, as is expected. But it is kind of at times boring, but overall it's a solid movie.
Yeah.
Then I watched surprise a true crime series.
Gasp.
Called Murder Among the Mormons.
Oh.
Which is about bombings that happened in Salt Lake City.
Oh, Jesus.
That surrounded Mormon documents, and without getting too much into it, like the documents that there were going to like change the Mormonism forever, as far as they knew, or get rid of it, even though, it probably wouldn't have gotten rid of it. But I'm not going to get any more into that.
Yeah.
There's question whether or not the documents are real or not, but bombings happened and people died, which you don't expect in a sleepy little Mormon town like Salt Lake City.
No, you do not. Not in the slightest.
But yeah, it's a solid documentary. It's only 3 episodes, so it's a quick watch. The craziest thing about it is that it is directed by Jared Hess, who, for those of you who don't know, directed Napoleon Dynamite, Nacho Libre.
It's a very
Gentleman
random.
He's Mormon, so
okay. It's not as random anymore.
At least was raised Mormon. I don't know if he still practices, but he was raised Mormon. But yeah, I saw that and I was just like, holy shit!
Yeah,
it just like I was not expecting that from a true crime documentary about
John
murders.
Hader just walks in the background.
Tina, eat your food. But yeah, that's all I watched. Let's get into some news.
Okay.
Do you want to go first? Or should I go first?
I can go first. Mine are pretty fast.
Yeah.
Obviously, this week is completely going to be cluttered with Snyder Cut news because it had its premiere and now it's going to release before we even post this podcast.
Yeah.
But the Batman officially wraps up. I found that was pretty nice. I'm excited. Matt Reeves' Batman with Robert Pattinson. I'm really excited for this. Like,
me too.
Like ever since obviously the Joker film with Joaquin. I'm excited for this. I'm excited to get away from...
Is that the same world?
I don't think it's the same world. I'm just more of solo films instead of trying to fit a DCEU
Stop trying to make movies TV.
Yeah,
That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I'm excited to get away from that, and I'm really excited for this because Robert Pattinson's definitely going to put himself on a lot of people's radar after this, get him away from Twilight if he hasn't already done that.
If you think of Twilight, I forget Robert Pattinson's in Twilight. How much
like
he has changed in my mind.
For us, he's like out of there. There's no
like he is one of the greatest young actors, and people who still consider him the Twilight actor have not seen anything.
You'll see on the social media, is that the guy who was in Twilight? All right, yeah, whatever. We're moving on. I hope it moves. Past that.
The guy in the lighthouse and the guy
in the Rover, in the Rover, Good Time, and everything else.
Yeah,
in Tenet.
He masturbates to a piece of soap in Lighthouse. Come on,
it's so crazy. And after
that's the thing he's known for, masturbating to a piece of soap.
And after that, I've got Avatar beats Endgame to reclaim all-time highest grossing movie title.
It's a sad day.
They re-released Avatar in, I believe, China.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it topped Endgame, so that's back on top. I guess we're gonna wait till re-release until Endgame gets to top that again, and then again, and then back and forth we go.
I feel a strong connection to people who worked at a movie theater when Avatar was out, and I feel so disconnected to people who did not experience working at a movie theater when Avatar came out, because they're just like, oh yeah, like when people say Avatar, I was like, oh yeah, it's that really fun, like bright colored movie, and I was like, no, it was 2 months of fucking hell.
Yeah. But that's all the news I have. Mike, what do you got?
So the Oscar nominations came out. James Cameron is nowhere to be seen on them. Because guess what? Just like after Titanic, he hasn't directed shit because he's not really a film director. But he is a film director. But he's not at the same time.
It's his side hustle.
It's his side hustle, which is fucking infuriating.
To do what he actually wants to do in life.
Do you know how infuriating it is that it's his side hustle to make movies?
They're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make this film, but I'm also going to break a record for how far deep I can go in the ocean or some shit.
I would kill someone to just get paid like 40 grand to make
the good news. You can two birds, one stone. James Cameron.
this podcast is gonna get flagged by the FBI.
Absolutely. We're not actually condoning murder or
hyperbole to make a joke. I don't want anyone to die, but it is just frustrating, that he does what I want to do, and it's his side hustle. It's
James Cameron, if you're ever listening to this, just take us on those trips. That's all we're asking.
Take me on the trip and give me $1 million to make a movie. That's it.
I don't even need money. Just look at me.
Well, anyway, so the Oscar nominations came out yesterday. There's a lot of snubs and upsets. Probably the most confusing thing is that both Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield were nominated for a supporting role in Judas and the Black Messiah, which poses the question, who the hell was the lead in that movie?
Yeah.
If it wasn't one of those two. That is more to do with how the voting works. The way voting for acting works is that before nominees are decided, everyone can vote who they think is a supporting or a lead, and if actors from the same movie tie in a category, then they are in that category. Usually that means that there's two leads, but in this rare instance, it means there's two supporting. So it's not saying neither of them are the lead. It's just that they people disagreed on who was the lead of the film. So supporting is what they got. But anyway, so the few other milestones is we have, for the first time ever, we have 2 women nominated for achievement in directing.
Hell yeah.
We have Chloe Zhao for Nomadland and Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. Both fantastic films.
I still have to watch both those films. Yeah,
also in that category, we have Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, the Danish movie with Mads Mikkelsen. And another incredible film. Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, David Fincher for Mank. David Fincher for Mank being the odd man out in my mind. That's saying something, that, like how stacked it is this year.
Yeah.
Like David Fincher's the weakest nominee in that category. But yeah, it's pretty solid. So the best pictures we got here are The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7.
It's. I have not seen most of those.
Yeah,
Funny enough,
most of them are available online now.
yeah, a lot of Hulu Primes and
yeah.
Netflix is all over the place.
Yeah, and the ones that aren't probably will, at least for rent in the near future, because they are not able to release them in theaters at the moment. So,
I also
widely in theaters.
I do love the fact that everybody like bashed on streaming platforms for so long, and now almost all of those movies are basically just on, and that's really it.
Yeah, I don't expect that to stick around. I hope it means they're
funny moment,
yeah.
really.
Once theaters, yeah, I agree. Once theaters are able to open normally, they'll probably go back to you have to have a theater run. I don't think Trial of the Chicago 7 had a theater run.
I think it pretty much went straight to Netflix, if I remember.
Yeah, and same with Sound of Metal, I believe. In the U.S. It might have shown in theaters overseas, but in the U.S. they did not. Yeah, those were the Best Picture nominations. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say. You can check those out pretty much on any news outlet. Just type in Oscar nominations 2021. You'll see the full list. Got some pretty interesting stuff there. Nothing makes me really angry. The thing that makes me the most upset is score, and that is because Soul again got nominated for score, which just baffles me, because why would you have a electronic score for a movie about a jazz player?
Still have to watch that as well. It's
an okay movie. I think people are losing their minds over nothing, but it's a fine movie. But yeah, let's get into the movie, shall we?
Absolutely.
During his 10 years in prison, Jack Deebs created his own world. It made him very successful.
You're Jack Deebs, the creator of Cool World, right? I can't believe this.
Now he thinks he's going home to the real world. But he's wrong. Real wrong.
Welcome to my world.
You're not in Kansas anymore! Freeze. Cool World Police. I'm a cartoonist. I drew all this.
This place exists with or without you.
Get a little closer here, babe. Give us a kiss.
Go away.
I'm out of here.
I've been waiting for you, darling.
Noids do not have sex with doodles. It's the oldest law in Cool World. If that happens, you call me.
I got it, boss.
Cool World. When Jack Deebs was behind bars, he found escape by creating Cool World, a cartoon series featuring a vixen named Hollywood. The flesh proves weaker than ink, however, as Holly takes human form in Las Vegas. That's such a... I messed that sentence up last week, too.
It's a weird sentence.
The flesh proves weaker than ink, however, as Holly takes human form in Las Vegas.
I think it's the flesh proves weaker than ink, however, as Holly takes. I think you're putting too much emphasis on however.
I put emphasis on
Welcome
everything.
to the KFR podcast, where we talk about grammar and enunciation.
Speaking of grammar, directed by Ralph Bakshi, written by Michael Grace, Mark Victor, stars Gabriel Byrne. Oh my God!
Oh, you did it again!
I did it again! Kim Basinger.
Basinger, you did it again!
Is that how you actually do it?
It is Basinger. Okay. I Googled it while I was editing last week's podcast.
Oh, you
Basinger.
Cheater.
Well, no, I knew it was Basinger. I corrected you last time.
Did you? Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to say Basinger now, because now it's fuck you guys.
Oh, well, when she comes knocking to your door to kill you, then don't call me.
Wait, is that a thing? Is that a thing that can happen?
Yeah.
Oh,
if you pronounce Basinger Basinger, she'll come to kill you.
Oh my God! Hold on, Miss Basinger. I'm sorry. And Janny Brennan. Obviously, we got Brad Pitt in there.
This podcast still is more on the rails than this movie was.
Yeah, we need somebody to get us in check as soon as we make a mistake. Be like, hey, stop. Wrong. Smack us with a ruler, and then you'll be okay. Just continue. So yeah, this movie, let me go into a little explanation on why I really chose this. Obviously, we don't want to pick dimes on this podcast. We kind of pick what we want. And for me, this isn't exactly what I'd say I want. It was more of a nostalgia thing. I saw a scene when I was younger, and then I was like, yeah, I want to see the rest of that movie. And that was what happened here.
So we picked this movie
So
because
we
little
picked it.
Glenn was horny for a cartoon.
Always, baby.
So I didn't want to announce this at the beginning, but I think now's a good time to announce this. This will be the last episode of KFR ever because this movie made me hate movies. I'm kidding. I'm
It
kidding.
was pretty rough.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it was not great. Like, obviously, I wasn't expecting a Who Framed Roger Rabbit or anything. I knew it wasn't a great film.
Yeah.
But I knew that it was something that existed, and I wanted to look at what it was about. So, let's get into this, shall we?
Let's get into it. Obviously, this came out around the same time that a lot of cartoon live action crossovers were happening.
Yeah, we had obviously Who Framed Roger Rabbit. We had Space Jam. We had Cool World, and
there's more. I just
Looney
can't think
Tunes
of them.
came out with a couple things more after that.
Looney Tunes back in action.
Yeah.
It was a thing. This was probably when was Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
88, I believe.
88. So yeah, this was probably banking off the success of that. Failed miserably, obviously. Well, I don't know if it failed box office wise. I would be surprised if it didn't. But it's following that trend. You know, we always see trend in movies. But this just kind of butchered it. Like,
well, it did lose a lot of money. 30 million budget and 14 million just in the U.S. at least.
Ooh.
So took its toll, you know.
Yeah. But it's like a lot of those crossovers. Everything is animated except for the actors.
Yeah.
In this, the sets are like these 2D pieces of shit cardboard cutouts.
Yeah, it's really funny. Like they're all walls, but they're painted to look like they're like 3D, like real. Like so, like you'll look at a wall and it's got steps on it, but they're not real steps. They're actually like painted steps. Like I noticed that a lot. Like the sets were real in a cartoon world, but they were 2D still.
Yeah, and it just didn't make sense. There was no consistency throughout, and it's embarrassing. I was embarrassed for everyone involved. Both Brad Pitt is great. Kim Basinger is pretty great. And Gabriel Byrne. I mean, Gabriel Byrne is one of like the greatest actors to ever live. He's in Miller's Crossing. He's in Usual Suspects. He's in Hereditary, for God's sake. Like he's still working and doing great work. And it's just, I don't know where he was in his career that he did this. Maybe he was just starting out. Brad Pitt was just starting out. I know that.
he was Baby Pitt.
Yeah, baby
Pitt back in the day.
Yeah.
It was rough because like they might have been good, but you definitely can tell like they weren't all there. Because it was rough.
But credit where credit's due. I won't say this about Brad Pitt because I feel like he was just phoning it in, banking off his good looks of getting him his next job. But Gabriel Byrne actually gave a decent, I'm not going to say a good performance, but a decent performance for what this is. Like, I believed he was who he was in the film.
Well, if I was looking in the trivia, because like obviously that's what you're going to do when you're having a lot of fun with a movie like this. I was looking in the trivia's there, and like Brad Pitt and I think somebody else wanted him originally to be Deebs, so he wasn't even the character he wanted to be. So I can imagine he's Frank Harris in this movie instead of Jack Deebs. So Gabriel Byrne,
I believe it.
Yeah, so I'm sure he wasn't exactly like thrilled. Super hype about it.
Jack Deebs is definitely the more interesting character. And you can see that Brad Pitt took his where he could in the beginning, where he gets in the motorcycle accident and immediately goes into a PTSD flash. It's not like the greatest acting in the world, but like in that scene he actually delivers, and then the rest of it
kind of the most acting you really see.
From him.
That's putting it harshly, but from that character, it is. Yeah. Because there's not really much from that after that. I mean, he goes into this toon world after the PTSD thing, and then You don't really, at least on my end, you don't really know that it's 50 years later, but then it's 50 years later because like he was born in Vegas and Vegas wasn't there, and then ended up going obviously back. I'm spoiling it a little bit, getting ahead of ourselves, but he goes back to Vegas and Vegas is there. So like it's just 50 years after when he originally went in.
Yeah.
And like you only find out because at the end he says, "Oh my God, I've been in there for 50 years" or something like that.
Well, they have a quick title card that says in the beginning it says
I completely missed it then.
Yeah, in the beginning I think it says Vegas 1942, and then it jumps to Vegas 1992.
Yeah, see, I guess what happens when I blink?
Yeah.
Because I turned and a lot of plot just went out of my
You
head.
blinked for 3 seconds.
Yeah. I was like, all right, so this guy is now in prison and he knows all the cartoons in the world. And
that would make sense because, like, this movie, like, when it's in the cartoon world, there's so much going on. It's exhausting to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it takes the worst of cartoons, shoves it in your face, and then just has it on repeat to the point where, like, what the fuck are the characters' motivations? Like, they're just hitting each other for no reason.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the thing with this for sure is that like during even like strong scenes and what's going on, there's like just they'll have like a little plug-in of two cartoons coming in and just whooping each other's asses.
Yeah,
and then like during like a really serious scene, like I'm like, well, why did that need to be there?
Yeah,
like, but it happens a lot.
It does happen a lot.
Even like if it's not two characters beating each other's asses, it's just, you know, like a ghost frame coming in or something like that. It's very, very weird as to why they would do that. Like, all right, there wasn't a cartoon for 5 seconds. Put one in.
So, like, one of the notes I wrote, I said, this movie isn't on bath salts. This movie is bath salts.
That's true.
It's just so chaotic that, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this movie made someone bite someone else's nose off. It's hard to watch, just ultimately, and not because it's shocking or anything. It's just it's anxiety inducing with how much is going on. But like the characters, Brad Pitt is calm throughout, and Gabriel Byrne is horny throughout, and it's just like it's this whole thing, and it's just
yeah. So the whole real plot is that Brad Pitt. Once he goes into the Toon World 50 years later, it turns out he's now a detective for the Cool World. I'm sorry, I don't want to say Toon World. That's an actual thing, apparently. But he's now a detective, and his one law, really, is to stop Toons from trying to fuck real people in Cool World, because that has real consequences where it makes them makes the Toons turn into real people, otherwise known as Noids. And very, very weird concept.
And the thing is that it's like, you know, it's gonna be the plot, because that's the only thing that's ever mentioned.
Yeah, there's no other laws or anything like that. It's just like that was the one thing Brad Pitt was doing there the whole time.
And then so like she keeps trying to bring Gabriel Byrne in to bang him, but she ultimately keeps getting caught until one time she doesn't get caught.
Yeah.
And then she became, emphasis on came, when she came.
Yep. Yeah.
She became a human when she climaxed, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's just a really weird fucking plot.
No, it is. And there's another thing. I looked at a lot of the trivia throughout this whole thing, watching it.
What else are you gonna do? I wish I did.
Yeah, I mean, for real. So this was originally going to be like a hard R film, like a hard R horror film, which honestly would have saved a lot of this movie.
Probably.
I don't know what the real thing was like or what it was going to be like or anything like that. I don't know much about this movie. Obviously, I'm saying that. But from what I understand, I think not Bassinger kind of swayed the way to make it more of Basinger tried to she swayed it. I don't know if it was obviously directly her, but she kind of swayed it into being more of a PG-13 movie, and I'm really curious what it would have been like if it was more of a horror R. obviously we would have seen some cartoon boobies and stuff like that, but I think more of the plot would have been there, and less cartoons would have just been beating each other's asses in the background. I think it would have been more story driven if it was hard R or anything like that. But I don't know. I don't know how you get swayed away from that so hard. And then I think at one point I also read that she wanted to show this movie to dying kids or something like that. I don't know how true that is. I'm just reading trivias off IMDb.
I think that sounds made up.
I mean, you can look at it.
I believe, especially around that time, I believe studios wanting her so much that they would change it from an R-rated film to a PG-13 for her.
Well, that was the thing. She wasn't even I don't think she was even the first pick.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Well, here's another one that I read that I think Drew Barrymore was more eyed than she was.
Well, that's creepy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how true these trivias are, but I mean,
yeah, that's really creepy to me. Well, not surprising because Hollywood is weird, but yeah, she would have been 15. She would have been 17 when this came out. So that is very
like
creepy.
This one. Willem Dafoe was Ralph Bakshi's. Bakshi's. Whatever. First choice for Jack Deebs.
Honestly, probably would have killed it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably would have killed it. I mean, yeah, he's a great actor. He can really do anything. But I just don't see how anyone at any point was just like, this movie's gonna be good.
Oh wait, who's Tracy Lords?
Tracy Lords, that name sounds so familiar.
She was in contention with the role of Hollywood, but lost it to a more widely recognized Kim Basinger.
You said it right. I'm so proud of you.
I know. I felt it. She was in Cry Baby. She was in Blade. Zack and Miri Make a Porno. Excision. I don't really remember her face though.
Yeah. This being a cartoon, there was a lot of recognizable voices in it. Mm-hmm. Like one of the people who plays multiple characters, Maurice LaMarche, who most people will probably know from like Futurama, Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah.
He's been on The Simpsons. He's in a lot of stuff. And also, there's one voice in particular that sounds like Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
But is not played by the actress who plays Bart Simpson.
Yeah, they do a lot of that. Like, they do a lot of nods to the other cartoon, movies, shows, whatever, franchises, whatever. I did see that they kind of got reference from most of those characters, or tried to do a spin-off of that character and then brought it into Cool World a little bit. Which would kind of make sense. A dude who's in prison getting motivation from other things for his own world, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And the voice of Nails, Charlie Adler. Nails is Brad Pitt's like right-hand man that keeps interrupting when he's about to get it on. And he went on to play Ickis in Ah Real Monsters, or was playing at the time. Big Head, both the big heads in Rocko's Modern Life. Cow and Chicken in Cow and Chicken.
I was gonna say that's the one I recognize him from for sure.
Cow and Chicken,
yeah.
He's like a big voice actor from the '90s that we recognize. He sounded a lot like the big heads for me because I was a huge Rocko's Modern Life fan. But not even he could save this. Like,
no, I mean it was a rough film.
It was very
definitely
rough.
If what it would have probably or could have probably become would have been cool, given like all the things that it had maybe going. I don't know too much about it, so I can't say. But maybe if it was like an R, maybe a horror R is what I keep trying to say. I don't know why I keep saying hard. Well, now I know. I can think of why.
Horror or hard? Horror. Yeah, if this went more for the horror movie route and was an R-rated film, I think it has potential to be okay.
Yeah, no, it definitely wouldn't have saved the movie like a shit ton, but I think it would have been more watchable and more, not wanting to rip your eyeballs out eventually down the line. Oh, God. Yeah, it's definitely nowhere near in contention with Who Framed Roger Rabbit or Space Jam.
Yeah,
In
not
fact,
at all.
it's definitely the worst film that I've seen in that category of live action cartoon crossover.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And the weirder thing is towards the end, Jack Deebs' neighbor, the young neighbor, like tags along with them to try to save the world.
Yeah.
Definitely just a random throw-in for some reason.
Really didn't need to be there.
And then
time.
she really cares about Brad Pitt for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And like she kind of cares for Jack Deebs, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But she reacts more harshly to Brad Pitt falling off the building, which I mean, like in reality, yes, anyone would react horribly to that because that's a horrible thing to see. But like in this, it's just like, why are you screaming?
Mm-hmm.
Like you just met him.
Well, you know what I don't really, now that I'm kind of thinking about it, like, how did Brad Pitt even get into Cool World if it wasn't really created until, 40 at least years later? I mean, if technically it was real the whole time and he just made the characters.
What I think it was real the whole time, and Jack Byrne thought he was dreaming when Hollywood kept trying to bring him in. So he assumed he was dreaming and created those comics from his dream.
Okay.
But Brad Pitt is brought in by that little
that little Spike
scientist guy.
Yeah, Dr. Whiskers.
Yeah, it's a mess of a movie. Mm-hmm. And I'm done talking about it.
That's fine with me. That's great.
All right, so let's move on to the judgment. Glenn,
Do we have to?
Does this make it onto the KFR shelf with the likes of Apostle and Handmaiden?
No, it does not. No.
Yeah, I agree.
As Porky Pig would say, that's all, folks.
Mm-hmm. Cool World is not cool. How many headlines of film critics was like that?
I can only imagine.
Cool World is not cool. But yeah, so Cool World shockingly does not make it onto the KFR shelf. It is not a shelf boy. It goes in the trash bin and probably weighs it down with all the shit that it is.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't thrown me in the trash bin as well with all the picks that I do sometimes.
Honestly, I don't think I can look at you the same after this movie.
I don't expect you to. Like, there's a mirror. I'm like Medusa.
A horny 5-year-old Glenn picking this movie. Mm-hmm.
I understand.
Ugh.
Wholeheartedly.
Ugh. Well, let's get into plugs, Glenn. What is your plug for this week, you bastard?
So originally this was going to be my plug last week, and then I found Josh Wiseman, and that whole cooking channel, which is the best thing in the world. This was what I was originally going to pick before that. Variety. It's basically what I did 2 weeks before that with the director on director thing.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck interviews David Fincher on his Ethic, Legacy, and Mank. That's going to be on Variety on YouTube. Just the chemistry these two guys have, period, is a lot of fun. Ben Affleck's just very laid back. It's like these guys are just two friends. I mean,
David Fincher is the exact opposite.
he's still very like, he sits up straight during the whole interview and he's talking, but they're both having fun talking to each other. And it's just really funny. Ben Affleck's just laid back. He's like, yeah, there's just things going on. Like, it's very casual for him, and it's very business side for him. But, like, the two have a great chemistry. They definitely talk about, like, how hard he is as far as his directing goes. And Ben Affleck, he understands it and he jokes about it a lot. He's like, yeah, you really got us good when you worked us to death, and just like laughs it off and everything. It's so funny. So that's going to be my plug right there.
Right.
Because this is a movie about a real person and a real event and an industry about which you know a great deal and care a lot about and understand very well, how much did you feel like it was important to show fealty to real events, to stick to the truth, to, did that scene where Gary shows up drunk at Hearst and, has that spectacular monologue, did anything like that really happen, or was this largely
No. I mean, look, Herman Mankiewicz was a guy who a lot of his closest confidants wrote down what he said because they got so much enjoyment out of it. And that was his gift and his curse.
My plug for this week is a little shameless self-promotion here. Not at the time of recording, but by the time this is released, the trailer for my next film, The Plea, will be out, possibly on YouTube, definitely on Vimeo, and my Instagram, Michael David Charles Hicks, all one word. So you can check out that. That is the official trailer for The Plea. We filmed this in January during the pandemic. We were all safe in social distance and wore masks.
We were.
And yeah, Glenn was there too.
I was.
And he was a little sound boy. And so, yeah, you can check out the trailer. This is a film that I've been trying to make for the past 10 years, and still, I still have an idea for a feature, but I got this out of the way. So if this is all I make from it, I'm content. But if I can make a feature from it, I'll be happy.
That would be awesome.
Remember that ditch in our neighborhood when we were kids? The one we go sledding on every winter? Remember how big it seemed when we were little? Felt like it would take forever to get to the bottom. We'd stay on that hill all day until our clothes were soaked through. This isn't a cold. This isn't the flu. This is it. I'm not getting over this. And every day hurts more and more. I can't do this anymore.
If you die, I'll have no one.
So yeah, those are our plugs for this week. That brings us to our assignment for next week. It is streaming roulette week, which that means we spin the streaming roulette wheel 3 times and we pick the best of those 3. And yeah,
let's get it on.
Sometimes we break the rules, if you know what I mean.
I don't know what you're speaking about.
So here comes spin number 1. Goon, The Last of the Enforcers. It is the sequel to The Goon. A hockey player plagued by injuries is confronted with the possibility of retirement when a tough new player challenges his status as the league's top enforcer. Written and directed by Jay Baruchel. Written also by Jesse Shabbat, Evan Goldberg, Adam Furtado, and based on the book by Adam Furtado and Douglas Smith. And is also very loosely based on a true story. The series overall, not this one specifically.
Yeah.
It stars Sean William Scott, Allison Pill, Marc-Andre Grandin, and Liev Schreiber. And Wyatt Russell, Kirk Russell's son. So there's that for you cool kids. So yeah, that is Goon, The Last of the Enforcers. And that is available on... Where is that available? Netflix. Or my Blu-ray collection.
Yeah.
That brings us to the second spin. Going now. The Absent-Minded Professor. From I think 58?
61.
Huh?
It says 61.
Oh, 61.
Walt Disney's.
Walt Disney. I think this is the predecessor to the Nutty Professor.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I have no idea. I'm just making shit up. I just watched the trailer. Glenn, it's not the Nutty Professor. It's Flubber! Flubber! But the Absent-Minded Professor is a college professor invents an anti-gravity substance which a corrupt businessman wants for himself. It is directed by Robert Stevenson, written by Bill Walsh, Samuel W. Taylor, and starring Fred McMurray, Nancy Olson, Keenan Wynn, and Tommy Kirk. Yeah, and
that's kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, that is available on Disney Plus. That brings us to spin number 3. The Rift from 1990.
It's got some nice scores on this one right here. Oh, never mind. I lied.
Yeah. I was like, are we looking at the same thing?
No, we were not.
The Rift from 1990. Siren 2, a submarine under the command of Captain Phillips. Captain Phillips? He was that controversial captain that got abducted by pirates. Ventures into the deep on a mission to recover the missing Siren 1. Ooh, the one that came before. Their quest is hindered when the submarine becomes entangled in a patch of toxic seaweed.
Seaweed.
Just seaweed, not regular
or weed. Maybe seaweed is just toxic weed.
Yeah, maybe. It is directed by Juan Piquer Simon. Oh, as J.P. Simon. I'll go with that. Written by J.P. Simon, Mark Klein, David Coleman, and Colin Wilson. It is starring Jack Scalia.
Oh, Arlie Army.
Arlie Army, Ray Wise, Deborah Adair, John Tollers Bay, and others who I don't recognize any of their names, so I'm not going to mention them. That is The Rift, and that is available on Amazon, it looks like. Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of an easy pick for me, I'm being honest. The Rift or die, Come on.
No.
No.
I'm assuming you're meaning The Absent-Minded Professor.
Yeah, I would like to see that, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm indifferent to that one. I've seen Goon. I like hockey, so I would not be mad watching that one. But we can watch The Absent-Minded Professor.
If I was going to watch Goon, I'd rather watch the first one and then this one.
Makes sense. Yeah, definitely.
Because I have not seen either.
Yeah, well, we should have a little movie marathon at my place. So yeah, that is our pick for next week. The Absent-Minded Professor, that is on Disney+.
At last we meet, Professor Brainerd.
No, this is Professor Ashton. Professor Brainard is physical chemistry.
May I say happy honeymoon?
You certainly may, Mrs. Chatsworth. Same to you. What happened? Yes. Yes, Johnny. We've got him. Flopper. Oh, Flopper. Betsy, you've got to let me explain what happened.
Haven't you caused Miss Carlyle enough embarrassment?
Now, look,
Come
you
on,
stay out
Betsy.
of this. Betsy, it's a sort of wedding present. We've got the floppers.
As always, you can check out our website, www.keystonefilmreview.com. Almost messed that up. So close to messing that up.
The pronunciation.
Our Instagram is Keystone_film_review. Twitter, Keystone_film. Facebook, Keystone Film Review. YouTube, Keystone Film Review. And on Letterboxd, I am Mike KFR.
And I am Glenn KFR.
And that will do it until next week when we get a little absent-minded with the professor. And a dog. Oh, it's a cute little dog. And it's a Disney movie. So it's either going to die or not die, and I can't handle not knowing, Glenn.
I'm afraid for both of us, don't worry.
Yes. Don't be like old Yeller.
Oh, God, dear Lord.